Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. Today, an all-thriller, no-filler episode of Weekend Watches. We're starting off with the Otsuka Lotec No.6, possibly the most celebrated and Instagrammed watch of the last year. It won the 2024 GPHG Challenge Prize. Now, this is the latest version of the timepiece. The original version debuted back in 2015. Among other revisions, the new variant, which you see here, has sapphire crystals, making it eligible as a new watch or a heavily revised watch for the GPHG, where it won one of the price class categories. But you would not guess that this watch costs roughly $3,335 US based on just how much page space and mind space it has consumed. It's a fairly easy watch to wear too. You can see it's almost like a wire lug Rodimir. It's 42.6 millimeters in diameter, and I measure it fairly thin. It's only about 12.2 millimeters thick and 46 lug to lug. Now, what's on the dial, you can see all this kanji. You have made by Otsuka Lotec, No.6 mechanical, Toshima Tokyo, and water resistance. That's what all of that means. The watch, made by visionary watch designer Jiro Katayama, along with Precision Watch Tokyo. It features a Miyota 9015 base. And in case you're wondering what this means, it's basically Citizen Watch Manufacturing Japan. So Miyota is a Citizen Watch brand, and it's an automatic that gives you a 40-hour power reserve, a 4 hertz beat rate, hacking seconds, and a quick set date. And you see we do have a date here, and there's a small scrolling seconds disc under the dial. The rest of it has a little bit of a feeling of almost a Dr. Robotnik-influenced Giuliano Mazzoli Vacheron Constantin Mercator. If you combine those three things, you get this watch, and that might not be a bad comparison. So while Miyota makes the base automatic, the module is original, and you can see it's a double retrograde featuring hours and minutes, and it is quite dynamic, and you can even see some of the mechanism down below the hands at the base of the dial. Now, it has this lovely satin metallic aesthetic and a Japanese fan style aperture. The crystal is specifically shaped for that reference. The watch is easy to wear. This is a calfskin strap that you wouldn't know it because it's been completely rubberized. It is an Otsuka original factory strap. It's a very basic watch on a lot of levels, which is part of what makes it so much fun. Ask people what this costs, and they'll guess crazy numbers. And, then you'll respond, 484,000 yen, which again is about $3,300 US, but it sounds big. 484,000 yen. Take that, Grubel 4C. And it's an easy watch to wear, and it's very comfortable. And you can see how the lugs are far and bore to the edge of my wrist, so even if you have a smaller wrist, even if you're a woman, it's going to wear well. And I've seen women wear these, and they look and feel great. You can see it's even thinner than you'd expect. It's got a weird shape and profile, but it's not high. So lots of fun, and probably the most fun you can have for the money of any watch you're going to see today. The Otsuka Lotec No.6. The latest variant of the watch, the GPHG Laureate. Okay. Also from Japan, something never previously featured on the show. Believe it or not, you're looking at the very first spring drive model. This is the SBWA 001 in steel, 38 millimeters, a 1999 launch, made in 500 pieces. It was designed to be a qualitative design and engineering tour de force, which is why this bracelet, the case, the dial quality, the movement finish, everything about this watch feels Grand Seiko grade, even though it is, strictly speaking, a Seiko watch. Now, this is the original version of the spring drive. So, manual wind, 48-hour power reserve. It was always accurate from the beginning, plus or minus 15 per month. The 7R68, it's got hacking seconds, a quick set date, a power reserve indicator. There's a fair amount of luminescence, and of course, Super Luminova, a Japanese invention. You can appreciate it right there. The watch is beautifully made, and the bracelet, which is organic and fully integrated, feels generations ahead of the late 1990s. The feeling, the solidity of it, again, it doesn't just feel like more than Seiko. It feels almost more than what you expect of modern Grand Seiko bracelets, which are often critiqued for not feeling quite Rolex or Omega solid. Well, this does feel Rolex or Omega solid. Now, it's a beautiful piece, and you can see on the reverse side, the movement is a cut above what you would expect on a standard Seiko watch. This feels a lot more like Grand Seiko level decoration. So a manual wind movement, you can see the stripes, polished screw heads, a beautifully concave mirror polished barrel right here, and of course, the drivetrain from the barrel turns the governing wheel, which moves through a magnetic field to create an electromagnetic current that wakes up the quartz oscillator. The quartz oscillator applies a resistance magnetic force to the wheel to slow it down and act as a governor on the timing of the watch. And because that wheel moves only in one direction and it's geared on one side to the barrel and on the other side to the hands, there are no motors, there are no batteries or capacitors powering the watch. It is purely mechanical drive, hence spring drive, and it created what is now that iconic smooth gliding hand. It's not high rate, it's no rate, it is continuous. It's an easy watch to wear too. Now, it wears a little bit bigger than a standard 38 just because of the integration of the bracelet, but you're going to find that even on my 16 centimeter wrist, I've got plenty of clearance on either side, and it is quite slender, so it'll fit easily on a wrist. And it's a beautifully finished case with all sorts of satination, a few polished elements, including the unique fixing screws that join the bracelet to the case. You see how that works right there? A design iconic of this model. And again, this is a 500-piece limited edition. Some people have claimed that without substance or evidence online, but I can tell you, because I have the box and papers for this, it's a full set, that this is number 360 of the 500 pieces, and it has a lovely, glossy, glassy black lacquered dial. Truly something special and a landmark in horological history. This one, fully functional, adjusted, ready to roll, intact in every way, is a rarity, as you don't find these watches essentially unmarred, unmarked, fully functional with all the parts today. A lot of people wore them and wore them out as though they were conventional Seikos. This was a landmark worthy of preservation, and this one feels fresh from the factory. All right, speaking of the factory, when you're dealing with 567 movement parts, you got to be precise. Back in 2018, a Lange und Sohne proved that not only could it be precise, but it could precisely register 2 different events of up to 12 hours duration. So in 2004, it launched the double split, which could split chronograph seconds as well as minutes. The triple split has 2 seconds hands for the chronograph, 2 minutes hands for the chronograph, and 2 hour hands for the chronograph. So you can split the seconds, the minutes, and the hours up to 12 hours duration. The watch is 43.2 millimeters in white gold, and again, it is a 100-piece edition. What's remarkable is it's really just a fraction of a millimeter thicker than the double split. They wear exactly the same. You cannot sense the difference in their size or weight. It's intangible. It's a miracle of packaging. And at Lange, they managed to create a decoupler system that ensures there's no dragging or slowing of the balance when the chronograph has been split and frozen. So if you were to freeze the split seconds, minutes, and hours, it will not slow down the rate of the watch. The best chronograph constructors, the likes of Patek Philippe, Lange und Sohne, make no mistake, there are no marks here, it's just fingerprints. They use that decoupler mechanism. Now you can see we have the 2 separate column wheels, a lateral clutch, an incredible depth of field with different colors, textures, tones, focal planes, finishes, and materials, blued screws, polished screws, German silver bridges and plates, steel chronograph components, and some of them extraordinary in their intricacy. Take a look at this clutch down here. You could see, let's catch back up right there, that the clutch includes in steel not 1 but 2 sharp interior angles where bevels meet in a sharp crease, and that's done on a tiny steel component. You could see that the polished screws here represent screws used for adjustment of the mechanism, whereas the blued screws overwhelmingly represent fixtures that are held in place and static, not to be adjusted, such as bridges held in place or chaton cups held in place. Truly impressive stuff. It's a surprisingly versatile watch. The dial is ardoise or anthracite, but it's made of sterling silver. Hands and indices are solid gold. The case is white gold. And yeah, there's some luminescence, which is quite impressive here. Now, of course, the mechanism, as you we won't get everything caught back up there. The mechanism works as a flyback as well, so you can reset and restart without first stopping. And it has this incredibly over-engineered clasp. This is the clasp originally created in 2008 for the Lange 31, the 1-month watch that was basically a 46 millimeter platinum and gold hockey puck. So most Lange watches don't have a folding clasp. They have a pin buckle. Of those that have a folding clasp, most have the standard snap-shut friction fit clasp. And then there is the elite of the elite, this, which you see right here. This is a clasp that has twin trigger release rather than a friction fit mechanism, so it'll stay shut until you press both triggers. And then inside, to avoid the strap pulling out, there is a collapsible ceramic spring-loaded pin snap locked clasp that will hold the strap fast to the pin so it can't pull through. And this little mechanism allows you to remove and reset the sizing of the strap without a cumbersome buckle screw like you'll find in some Vacheron and Glasuta Original watches. This gives you that security, but with the adjustability. And you can see how the clasp is assembled with extraordinary intricacy, fixing screws, sliding retention bars, and this clasp, it is a 4-figure euro replacement cost if you have to buy this as an accessory. Throwing it on the wrist, yeah, it's big, 43.2, but I could wear it just fine, and I don't have a huge wrist. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, and while this is large and prominent, it is a watch of impeccable quality and grace. It doesn't feel like I'm wearing an offshore or a big bang. This is a timepiece whose size is purposeful, and that purpose is the sophistication. 55 hours of power reserve, flyback, power reserve indicator, split seconds, minutes, and hours. And yeah, there is a little power reserve indicator for the 55-hour manual wind reserve right down there, up, down. This watch has it all. Now, I am a huge fan of Vacheron. I think easily the most underrated of the Holy Trinity, and you don't have to ask me which one is the most overrated. They're the ones who claim to break the rules, those guys. Vacheron, on the other hand, proves that following the rules with impeccable manners, a little bit like Lange, often yields a better result. And so in 2018, they launched the Traditionnelle Tourbillon. This is the Traditionnelle Tourbillon, but with the 2023 upgrade green metallic sunburst dial. Now, 41mm platinum case, but only 47.9mm lug-to-lug. White gold dial furniture, including the logo, the indices, and the hands, all of which are faceted cut with nuanced decoration, including half frosting for the Dauphine hands. This bridge above the tourbillon takes between 7 and 11 hours to hand finish. And then you have the steel tourbillon cage inside, which features 2 interior angles per arm of the Maltese cross. And that's steel, and that's inside a tight confine. Very difficult to finish. Golden chaton cup for the jewel, and nod to the pocket watch here. And you can see one of the screws is blackened with a blackened index because this acts as the seconds dial for the watch. It is a 1-minute tourbillon. It is an 18,000 vibration rate. It is beautifully decorated. It has an overcoil hairspring. Then you flip it over and you realize this thing's automatic. That's right. The movement, caliber 2160, has a 22 karat gold peripheral rotor that it's attached to a ring gear that drives a winding system using a double pawl magic lever style winding system, energizing an 80-hour power reserve. And so it's properly thin for everything included here. Automatic, long power reserve, tourbillon, only 5.65 millimeters thick. Now we've got interior angles, broad bevels, stripes, polished screw heads, satinated wheels. Deeply impressive stuff. It lives up to the legend of the Geneva seal, which is on both the movement and the case, as this is a full watch standard since 2012. Full matching platinum clasp, no white gold here, guys. Throw it on the wrist, it looks and it feels great. It's the short lug-to-lug dimension and the thin profile that really makes this watch elegant, graceful. You don't have to be obnoxiously weird and different. You don't need Spider-Man tourbillon watches. You don't need to beg for attention. To be Holy Trinity and top tier, all you need is respect for tradition, built and finished to the highest modern standard. And the engineering to make a peripheral rotor work well, that takes discipline and investment, and Vacheron has done that. What a watch and what an experience. Proof that big group brands do have a lot of soul. You've got Christian Salmoni, you've got Anthony de Haas, you've got people who really know what they're doing at the helm of some of these companies, and the product reflects that respect and focus. All right. Now, let's talk about a brand that has forever only represented the vision of two men. Founded by David Zanetta and Denis Flageolet de Bethune, of course, is the house brand here at the 1916 company, but I don't own Lange, and I just sang their praises, so I try to be objective about these things, to just call out what the advantages of the watches are. And at de Bethune, it is the undivided attention of watchmaker Denis Flageolet. Now, David Zanetta was co-founder, and he helped contribute to the aesthetic of the early days of the brand. He was also a vintage collector and dealer, meaning he had a great grasp of history, as did Denis. So no matter how avant-garde the watches have gotten, there has always been some reference to heritage. So let's start with this DB25 moon phase. White gold, 44 millimeters in diameter, and we have a dial of fired blue titanium. So it's first mirror polished, then fired in a kiln to create this blue. And you can see it's also a two-part dial. Dials, cases, and movements made in-house at de Bethune, so fully integrated despite only making about 330 watches last year. The timepiece includes white gold cabochons that have been inserted into drillings in the dial to form the stars and the celestial bodies. And you can see Orion, the hunter, the constellation, right off to the 3 o'clock side here, which you'll also find, and this is the pusher adjuster, there is a spherical moon phase, and it is a perpetual calendar style moon phase, meaning after you adjust it, it will be 122 years before the next time you have to adjust it. 1/2 fire-blued steel, 1/2 white palladium. Fixed lugs, round case, solid dial. When the DB25 collection debuted in 2007, the idea was that de Bethune knew it was going avant-garde, and that was the future for the brand. So there had to be some sort of collection that was every inch the de Bethune qualitatively, but more conservative for people coming from Holy Trinity, a more conservative independent like Moritz Grossman, Kari Voutilainen, F.P. Journe, and that's what we have here. So all of the avant-garde is on the back of the watch, and thank goodness for that. Now, this is actually a double complication, believe it or not. You've got the moon phase on the dial, and then a power reserve indicator on the back. The power reserve, manually wound, is 6 days via twin self-adjusting barrels. So those are patented. You cannot overwind this watch. So wind away, one of the mainsprings will slip to save you from yourself. Now, black polish. Some brands give you black polish on a swan's neck regulator, maybe a screw, maybe a stud holder. Here, it is the entire cap to the main plate and the barrel bridge cap. And it is a barrel bridge cap. First, if you look, you can actually see that there is a complete Côte de Genève barrel bridge underneath this cap. The mirror-polished cap is then attached, so you have double anglage, the bridge below and the cap above. You can see double-decker anglage, solarization of the barrel cover and the ratchet wheel, and on this side where you have the ratchet wheel teeth have been micro beveled. We also have a fully rounded and mirror polished balance bridge. Now, this kind of rounded and mirrored bridge is something you associate with Grubel 4C. It's sort of their signature. And while de Bethune's known more for engineering and kind of their no-holds-barred futuristic design, decoration and time spent on decoration is still a major point of pride for Denis and the brand. And so you will find no compromise in that regard here. We have 1, 2, 3 shock protection springs. That's triple parachute. It's patented. 2 purposes. 1, obviously, to protect the balance staff pivot from damage, but also to make sure that the pivot itself never actually leaves the jewel cup. So it improves the chronometry with less displacement of the balance staff pivot under shock. So it improves the timing of the watch. The hairspring, though not made in-house, that's coming soon. But back then, they would get the flat hairspring, cut it into 2 pieces, form the terminal curve by hand, and that curve is patented, and then micro clamp them back together. You can just about see the micro clamp underneath the bridge. It's peeking out there. So the idea here is you have a flat and thin flat hairspring. That's the advantage there. but it also breathes concentrically like an overcoil. 4 hertz beat rate, no low rate gimmicks are played in order to get that 6-day power reserve. And then the 2010 patent balance wheel. Bethune has a lot of patented balance wheels, 10 or 11 depending on how you count the tourbillon. So what you're looking at here is the 2010 patent. This is my favorite. This one is a full disc of silicon. It makes it difficult to see if it's moving unless you watch the hairspring. And then the rim is one continuous unbroken ring of white gold. 3 functions: reduce the impact of temperature change on timing, reduce the impact of aerodynamic drag on timing, and then maximize the percent of total mass in the rim. And that's what this achieves. We've got a pin buckle at Bethune. If you look, the pin buckles are actually designed to echo the design of the case. So with the DB25, you get a very conventional pin buckle, and with the DB28, you get a much more open, airy, evacuated, prismatic buckle that's a lot like, well, those lug profiles. Throw this watch on the wrist, yes. It's 44. No, it's not huge. It will easily slide under a cuff. It's a good fit. I'd say if your wrist is my size or larger, you're probably going to want to go with this size as opposed to the 40. I'm partial to the 40, but you actually just get more of everything here. More gold, more titanium, more dial, more base plate cover, and black polish on the back. So if you can, you should. All right, going upscale, now we're talking about a very special DB28 tourbillon. Many of these feature solid case backs, and you can see this example does not. The power reserve indicator on the reverse side is fully visible, and on this back side we have snailing, satination, engine-turned perlage, that's snailing, I think it's called colomaçonnage is the term. We have media blast, we have mirror-polished screw heads, and we have a mirror-polished solid gold index for the 5-day power reserve of the watch. And it is a 5-day power reserve because this is a tourbillon. We still have twin barrels. All the action now is on the dial side. 63 pieces. It has a mass of only 18 hundredths of a gram. This is the world's lightest tourbillon regulator. Now, aside from that, 18 hundredths of a gram. It's made of silicon, white gold, and titanium. It's a 30-second tourbillon, so it makes 2 turns per minute, not 1. That aids chronometry. It's also a high rate escapement. So this is 36,000 vibrations per hour like a Zenithal Primero, so 10 beats per second or 5 hertz. It's got a very quick double-step cadence. This is a sophisticated, multi-part, multi-planar, multi-material dial. It is blackened, it is polished. We have Côte de Bethune stripes. We have polished cabochon hour indices, modified skeletonized polished steel Breguet hands, and then a fired blue bridge for the tourbillon structure. You can also see de Bethune's unique silicon escape wheel for this tourbillon. Taking a quick look on the wrist, it's a very light watch. It's 42.6 millimeters in diameter, but the watch has de Bethune's ace up its sleeve. It has the spring-loaded ergonomic floating lugs, which are patented. It is, again, the twin barrels, self-adjusting, so you can't accidentally overwind it. Both of these watches protected by between 5 and 6 patents. Now, a really cool watch to wear, because though it's large and in charge, it's very light. It feels almost toy-like, made all of titanium and sapphire. And yeah, it does fit under a wrist. And you can see if your wrist is my size or larger, this is going to be a great match for you. So what could possibly top that? Well, I always like to end with something that is exceptional in some way. Engineering, design, rarity, horological significance. And I think the Ludovic Ballouard halftime is all of those things. Ballouard, a French watchmaker, cut his teeth as a watchmaker in training, but found there were few jobs available as he left watch school. So for a while, he worked in aircraft maintenance before he got an offer to go to Switzerland and work in after-sales service for Franck Muller. He worked there for a couple of years, working his way up to the top complications before becoming one of the top guys at F. Vacheron, where his focus was chiming watches like the Répétition and the Sonnerie Souveraine, watches that were essentially built by maybe no more than 2 or 3 qualified watchmakers at a given time. And with the Sonnerie, he built his resume that helped him to get a gig as a solo watchmaker, building his own watches from 2009, initially only about 6 to 12 a year. Now I think he's somewhere between 12 and 24. But this is a one-stop shop and really a one-man band. A little bit like Mark Knopfler, This is the kind of guy who is responsible for every aspect of the art, which is why when you turn it over, you can see that he's even hand engraved the case back. He's hand engraved his initials on the crown. He's made every single part of this movement and hand decorated it. Now, you really need to see the halftime in action before you can understand. It's a very thin watch, 10.4 millimeters thick. It's only about 48 millimeters lug to lug. It's 41 in diameter. This is both a retrograde and a jump hour. The retrograde is for the minutes at the bottom, and then the jump hour assembles only 1 hour at a time, the one at the head of the dial. And this is consistent with Ballouard's philosophy of life, that only the current hour matters. That was his philosophy with his original Upside Down and with his Harry Winston Opus 13. Yes, he made one of the Harry Winston Opus series. This watch is platinum, but it has a dial custom made by Ballouard and described as green gold. And I know some people are going to ask, is it loomed? The answer is no. It kind of does look like it might be, but I just want to be clear about that. So this is a green gold dial with a circumferential brushed or snailed surface. And if you look, you can see the dial is actually part of the movement as it's physically fixed to the underlying hardware by polished screws. And even these little elements like the frames for the date, or I should say the hour, not the date, and the retrograde minutes, those things are all media blasted, filed, and finished by hand. You can see number 11. This is number 11. That is hand engraved. The model launched in 2012. This example was retailed in 2021. On the reverse side, let's just go back to the dial side so you can see how it works, then we'll jump to the back. You can see retrograding and jumping. Now we turn it all over, and you can see a little bit like the original Upside Down. There's a snail cam, a jumper spring, and a jumper. It's just a much more sophisticated mechanism because there's more going on. As with his original Upside Down, the core of the movement, and by that I just mean the train geometry, I don't mean the parts, but the core of the movement is based on a Peso 7001, so it's manual wind 3 hertz, 23.3 millimeters in diameter. It's got a 36-hour power reserve. Then you have the outlying ring, which includes all the mechanisms responsible for the display, save the snail cam, the jumper, and the jumper spring. So this is a movement 35 millimeters in diameter. So when I tell you that the core caliber design was 23.3, you could see how much Ballouard has made it his own. Now taking a look, you could see glinting, gleaming anglage on everything. Bridges, you could see it on the steel parts of the jumper and the mechanism. We have solarization, snailing, engine turning in several different sizes, polishing. Everything you would expect on Horlogerie, it is here. You will not be disappointed. And although, again, he uses the Peso train, the parts are all custom made and decorated. And I had to end with this watch because frankly, this is just where it's at. If I were to keep one watch from this show, for me, it would be somewhere between this and I'm thinking maybe the Lotec, but this is really, really, really special. And if you want something no one else has from one of the great watchmakers of our time, hand-built almost to a fault, this is the way to go. It also has the cool feature from the original Upside Down where the case is concave, so when you look at it in profile, you see it's a concave mirror, and a concave mirror reflects your image upside down, and that's the idea. So if you love these watches, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.